Do you have a story to share with the world? Of course you do. We all have stories to share. An Anchor podcast allows you to share your interests in a way that connects to others all across the globe. If you have been considering starting your own podcast and don't know where to begin, Anchor makes it easy to record, edit, and publish with the click of a button. You can even add music. Whether it's crime dramas, self-improvement, paranormal adventures, or tips about parenting, you too can share your unique imprint on the world. Download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started today. You've got this. I believe in you. Welcome to the Existential Empath Podcast. My name is Tanya, and I am an intuitive empath. My intention is to share valuable tools and techniques that I have learned so you can tap into your own inner healer naturally and intuitively. If you are unfamiliar with the EFT tapping points, then I would recommend that you check out either one of my YouTube channels, The Existential Empath or The Soul Cafe, where I walk you through in the video each of the tapping points. You will still receive all of the benefits by listening through the podcast, but if you would really like to amp it up and dive a little bit deeper into your healing process, then it is important to learn where these tapping points are located. If it feels uncomfortable for you to tap, then you can just hold your hand over your heart or in a similar area that feels comfortable for you. Enjoy the podcast. So what the heck is EFT tapping? I get this a lot from people that when I first tell them what I'm doing, they don't really understand what it is. So I wanted to talk a little bit about tapping, a little bit about energy, and how this all kind of fits into our natural healing process. So in order to understand tapping, you need to understand what energy is. All right, energy is the ability or the capacity to do work. So anytime that we, eat food, we are fueling our energy to do work. And anytime we go for a run or a walk, we're actually burning that energy in our bodies. And it's also important to understand that as energetic beings, we can either pick up other people's energy or give off our energy to others. I don't know if you've ever been in a situation where you've been around someone who is a little bit negative. You may be starting the day off really positive, and then you get around someone who's a little bit negative, and by the end of the day, you're feeling kind of negative too. Well, their energy is actually wearing off on you, and you are sucking that up like a little sponge, okay? So when we look at energy, we have to understand that energy is everything, all right? Everything in this vast universe is made up of energy. When we talk about our emotions can get trapped inside of our body, all right? So when an animal goes through a trauma, you will begin to see it shake. It'll shake a lot. It'll, and if you've ever noticed that before, what they're doing is they're energetically releasing that trauma from their body. Us as humans, we don't do that. When we go through a traumatic situation, oftentimes we will suppress and then repress. And what that does is causes depression within our body, which depression is really just a state, an energetic state of disharmony and unbalance. So when we let go of those energetic blockages, or we actually process those emotions, we free up space within our bodies, because those emotions act like little balls of energy, okay? So they get trapped in our body. They find a nice little space that feels good, like your left or right shoulder, okay? They're like, oh, I'm guilt. I'm a little ball of guilt. I'm gonna plop myself right here. And what happens is you start to feel tightness there. You start to feel pain there because it's manifesting from that emotional state into a physical state. And we often don't notice it until our body's alarm system goes off, which is that sense of pain. And we don't understand that that emotion that we trapped years ago, could be even at birth, long time ago, is building up momentum and steam within that area of our body, and it's causing distress, dis-ease within our body. So I like to give the example of the iceberg effect. Okay, so the iceberg effect is if you visualize an iceberg, you see there's a portion of the iceberg on top of the water. All right, that is our willpower, our long-term memory, our logical thinking, even our critical thinking. That only takes up 10% of our mind. That's our conscious mind. But underneath the water is our subconscious mind, which takes up 90% of our mind. So those types of things that fit into that category are our beliefs, our emotions, our habits, our values, our protective reactions to things, our intuition, our creative imagination. And when we are doing EFT tapping, oftentimes you will begin, that was strange, a little bird just flew up. You will begin to notice that people have outer emotions and then there's always a deeper emotion. So someone may present themselves with rage or hate on the surface, but underneath, just like the iceberg, there's a deeper emotion, which could be hurt, guilt, shame, sadness, sorrow, grief, whatever it may be. So with EFT tapping, we're going deeper. We're diving into the waters and going down into the iceberg to see what that underlying issue is. And we're trying to release the energetic charge behind that emotion. So it's not like we're erasing the memory of that particular traumatic incident, but what we're doing is we're taking that energetic charge out of it. So every time you think of that incident, you aren't going right back to square one and suffering from those emotions. So deep in our temporal lobe of our brain is a little almond-shaped mass of nuclei that's called the amygdala, or the amygdalae. And this is responsible for our autonomic nervous system responses of fear, anxiety, any arousal or emotional stimulation. So we kind of can really look at that like it's called the reptilian brain, which is those survival instincts that are deep within our subconscious mind, that when you're in a traumatic situation, your body knows how to respond. And it sort of functions as our body's alarm circuit for that fight, flight, or freeze response. So there's two different types of our nervous system. You've got your sympathetic nervous system, which is that fight, flight, or freeze response. And then you also have your parasympathetic nervous system, which is the rest and digest. And us as human beings, our natural state of being is supposed to be in the parasympathetic nervous system. But unfortunately, due to a lot of our environmental stress and different things that happen within our daily lives, we find ourselves in sympathetic nervous system. So what EFT tapping does is pulls us out of that sympathetic fight, flight, or freeze and reprograms our energetic system and our mind to get out of that state of being into a more rest and digest state of being. So EFT tapping, or also known as the emotional freedom technique, is a stress relief exercise based on the combined principles of ancient Chinese acupressure, which is needleless, so not acupuncture where they use the needles, but acupressure, and also modern psychology. So it's a really nice mix of Eastern and Western medicine, which I truly feel that the best way to heal the body is to use a little bit of both, to have that holistic approach where you can combine that modern medicine with that more ancient medicine. So it focuses on releasing those emotional attachments and any energetic blockages pertaining to a certain thought or a traumatic situation or an event, which can help alleviate some of those physical and emotional ailments. So EFT has been used for more than 5,000 years, and it has been validated by more than 60 different scientific studies. So it is something that is, has scientific backing, and it does work. It really does work. For me personally, I've struggled with obsessive compulsive disorder, anxiety, and also not properly releasing my emotions. I worked in a trauma related field for nearly 15 years, and I was working with grieving families, and I tried to hold it together, right? I was always trying to hold it together, to be the strong one for those families and for the staff that I was working with. And there were some times I would leave those situations and cry and be able to release it. And then there were other times when I wasn't. So as I started doing EFT tapping, I started to realize that I was releasing some of these trapped emotions that I had buried deep down into my subconscious mind when I was working with some of these families. And not to mention, I was kind of tag teaming it with some of my own childhood trauma and issues, and it was just causing a lot of imbalance and disharmony in my body. So tapping has been a really effective technique for me to kind of keep in my healing toolbox that I can kind of whip out in those situations. And when you tap on certain points of the body, what you're doing is you're just creating like an energetic reset button. So as you're moving through the body and tapping, you are moving the energy through, and then you're making a statement. And we start off with a negative statement because we're trying to bring that negative feeling or that negative emotion from the subconscious mind to the conscious mind so we can bring it to the surface to be released. And then we will go through those negative statements, and then we will end it with positive statements that are reprogramming that subconscious mind so the body knows that it's in a state of rest and digest. And EFT tapping, I say, is kind of like peeling an onion. The more you peel, the more that you will heal. So you may be presenting yourself with a certain emotion on the outside, like I said, anger or rage, but really, as you dig deeper down when you're doing the tapping, you'll begin to notice that there's underlying issues like an onion, like a layer to an onion. Could be fear, could be heartbreak, and it could all go all the way back to abandonment from the time you were 2. You know, someone may have abandoned you. So once you start to peel away those layers, you'll begin to notice that your symptoms that you first started out with when you were tapping start to slowly dissolve and slowly alleviate, or they could move around in the body. So sometimes if they start to move around in the body, we do, chasing the pain is kind of a technique that we can use, where you literally just start, this pain in my shoulder, this pain in my elbow, this pain in my, in my lower back, it starts to move around. So really what it's doing is that energy is trying to find a new home unless it's being properly released and dissolved completely from your energetic system. So EFT tapping is a very gentle way that can strip away layer by layer, just like an onion, and we can get to that root issue. And as we kind of tap away some of those concerns, we can, we feel freer, we feel lighter, we're able to release some of those fears so we can establish a more productive, a more efficient belief system, within our own lives. And once, for me personally, I dealt with a significant amount of lower back pain that seemed to be maybe a weak spot in my body where the energy liked to go. Those are where my trapped emotions or buried emotions like to go, is in my lower back. And it was making me feel really, out of my power. It was really hard because it was making it difficult for me to walk. And once I started to release some of those deep buried trapped emotions, I began to feel better. I began to feel like I was standing more into my power. And when the human body starts to heal itself, it knows what to do. We have this amazing computer, this amazing intelligence system that when we allow it to heal, it completely it's miraculous at how quickly it can happen. So you just have to figure out which button to push, right? So on the computer, if you're, trying to figure out how to delete something and you're hitting the space button, it's not going to be doing anything, right? So, but you may have to hit the space button to get to a certain point where you can actually delete whatever it is that you're trying to delete or eliminate. So a lot of it is just, going layer by layer to release those trapped emotions that cause that disharmony or that unbalance in the body. So EFT tapping honestly can help alleviate a lot of different situations, from anxiety and stress, which is, it's wonderful for anxiety and stress, PTSD or trauma, and different types of fears or phobias that you may have. It can even help with food cravings and possibly even smoking and alcohol addictions. If you can really get to the root cause of why that person is having that particular addiction or when it started, and alleviate that particular traumatic event or incident that may have happened to cause them to start along that path of addiction, you can really create some massive healing shifts within the psyche and within the body as well. So I've even used it personally for insomnia and other types of things. One of the points that I always share with people is to tap the thymus gland. The thymus gland is the hub of our immune system. So it's kind of like, I always say, where King Kong sort of, pounds on his chest. It's right there. And when you tap on that, if you are in a particular situation where you're feeling a little stressed out, and you just slowly, you find a nice quiet place or a place where you can step aside and you just slowly tap. You don't even have to do it fast. You can do it slow, whatever feels comfortable to you. You don't even have to tap. You can even hold it. Okay, you can hold it and then breathe in for a count of 5. Hold for 5 and then breathe out for a count of 6 or 7. And as you do that, you will begin to notice your anxiety will begin to go down. So the reason why you breathe in a little shorter than you breathe out is because you're trying to reset that autonomic nervous system. You're trying to transition your nervous system from sympathetic to parasympathetic. So as I work with clients and I go through the process with them, I'm always trying to find that deeper root issue as to why they're dealing with whatever ailment it is that they're dealing with. So I hope this was beneficial for you and having a little bit better of an understanding of EFT tapping. If you want to know more, I would encourage you to research. There are different techniques to tapping. There are also different acupressure points that a lot of different clinicians will use. I pretty much use the standard tapping points, and it's really case by case depending on the client, because sometimes I will incorporate different points around the solar plexus, like the liver or the belly button, or even the lower back. I've used that one before too. So I would encourage you to research a little bit more. I just wanted to give you a very generalized understanding of what EFT tapping is, so that way you can do your own research, and I always encourage you to do that. Don't just take my word for it, but I'm just sharing my story as to how much EFT tapping has helped me overcome my own subconscious blocks that have been holding me back from being the best version of myself. So, and as always, I always encourage you to get outside, do something in nature. It's so, wonderful to be able to connect with nature, because the earth has a natural energy that is in tune with the human body. So when we get so caught up of being inside and being around artificial energies, our bodies can really get out of alignment and out of balance. So I always encourage people to get outside, spend some time in nature, and do something that your soul will love you for, because there's really nothing more special and more healing than doing something that makes your soul feel happy.
You deserve to navigate your life as an empath in alignment with health, happiness, and abundance. To learn more about the services that I provide, including Beyond Quantum Healing Hypnosis, EFT tapping, and the Emotion Code, visit my website at www.thesoulcafe.org.